آریانا افغانستان یگانه شبکه تلویزیونی ملی افغانها در خارج از کشور.
قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري فلهذا السر أدعو في يساري وعساري أنا عبد صار فخري ضمن فقري واضطراري قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري.
السلام عليكم. بسم الله الحمد لله الحمد كثيرا. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبناء وشفائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Alright, inshallah, this is our first segment, and we're going to be touching on different topics that all have to go back to the heart. So the name of the program is tazkiya. So tazkiya is, it comes tazkiyah the nafs, so tazkiyah the soul is purifying the heart and purifying the soul, and being able to know the vices of the soul, right? Being able to point them out and catch them, the vices of the soul, the diseases of the soul, the diseases of the heart. And inshallah, with some time, inshallah, being able to cure by learning from an Islamic perspective, spiritual perspective, the science of tasawwuf, how to inshallah get rid of these diseases and to prevent them before they even come around. So since this is our first show, we will touch on different topics. We won't go too deep, inshallah, because we want to give a little overview. And then inshallah, as the weeks come on, we will go deeper into each topic and focus on each disease of the heart. Or inshallah, different sciences like the seerah, the life of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So the first thing we're going to speak about today is the heart. The most important thing that we own and possess is the heart. The heart is the only thing that lives forever and it lasts forever. The spiritual heart I'm talking about, obviously, because the body is faniyan, like they say in the Arabic language, it's going to perish. So the body perishes, but the heart and the soul lives forever, right? So a lot of people these days are investing in a lot of outward. When it comes to the body, they're investing outwardly in their body, whether it might be getting a personal trainer working out, or tummy tucks and facelifts and all these type of surgeries people are doing to beautify their outward appearance. But how about investing in something that lasts forever? Because in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. And on that day, nor will your wealth or your children benefit you in any way besides the one that comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a sound heart. So everything we do here from an Islamic perspective, from Quran and Hadith, every source we use is going to be Quran and Hadith. And the reason why we're keeping it like that is so everybody can benefit from it. Because there's obviously different opinions in Islam, and if we quote scholars, then you're always going to get the backlash. Why isn't he quoting Quran and Hadith? So we've compiled ayahs from Quran and Hadith, all focusing on the heart and how one can purify their heart. And I've been back about a month now. The fakir spent somewhat 5, 6, 7 years, whatever, on and off overseas from countries like Yemen, Egypt, and Morocco, studying the deen and the Arabic language and Hadith and jurisprudence and tafsir. And since I've been back, maybe I see this within myself, but since I've been back, the diseases of our time, like narcissism, pride, arrogance, right, backbiting, this is something that's extremely, extremely dangerous. Like one of the biggest scholars of our time, known as the Mujaddid Habib Umar bin Hafiz bin Salam, says that you can have a mountain of good deeds, but just one kalam ghiba, just one word of ghiba will just destroy and demolish all of it, right? So there's a hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the hadith is in Bukhari, ألا وإن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب. So the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying that in the body there's a piece of flesh. Now if that piece of flesh is sound, the whole body is sound. And if that piece of flesh is corrupt, then the whole body is corrupt, meaning your actions is corrupt. Everything that comes out your mouth is corrupt. Your thoughts will be corrupt and you will harm people, right? And most important, you'll harm yourself, right? So everybody, the most important thing should be obviously trying to tazkiyah, trying to purify yourself, right? Like there's a saying in English, right? When you point one finger, you got 3 fingers pointing right back at you. Now see, when the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is talking about this, how this piece of flesh in the body, if it's sound, the whole body is sound. Now that's obviously on a spiritual level, right? And then we spoke about the ayah of the Quran, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَطَاعَ اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ, right? So we start with the ayah of the Quran, we quoted the hadith. Now the thing is, physically in the body, where's the heart placed? The heart's placed behind the sternum, right? The heart's placed behind the sternum, and you have around it, protecting it, is the rib cage. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put the heart in a place and has protected it physically. And its job is to pump blood throughout the whole body, right? I'm not obviously, I know I'm not a nurse or a doctor by any means, but this is, common sense. You learn this in, in junior high school here in the States, right? So what I'm saying is, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed the heart, such a precious thing, and has protected in the body, yani mahfuz, right? It's protected in the body. Well, kayfa, yani how is it spiritually? Shouldn't we protect it? There's a correlation and a connection. One of my teachers, mashallah, he breaks it down and makes a great analogy, with the physical world and the spiritual metaphysical. So what we're saying now is that this should be our greatest investment, should be the heart. And for us to know the disease of the heart, and and look, like the word in Arabic, jihad, right? It's a scary word. I'm using it on international TV. It comes from the root Arabic word jahada. Jahada means to struggle, right? Now, there's another hadith of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Sahabas were out in battle. When they came back, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, jihad akbar, right? Now get yourself ready for the bigger jihad. And the Sahabas were like, whoa, we have cuts, we're wounds, what's going on? Like we were giving our life, because they were getting attacked. So this was obviously in a self-defense, right? The Sahabas were defending themselves. Now, when the Rasul said that to them, and then the Sahabas were like, ish jihad al-akbar. And the Rasul said, jihad ala nafsuka, the jihad on your nafs, on your ego, like hatred, like jealousy, like envy. And these diseases are in everybody. And if you don't feel it, because it hasn't came out to the surface, right? And as you start studying the sciences, Islamic sciences that have to do with tasawwuf, you will start seeing these, right? And they say when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants khair for a slave, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants khair for an abd, right, for his slave, is when he makes him aware of his faults. Now, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us aware of our faults, that's because he wants good for us. And we shouldn't get scared and be like, oh my God, I'm so sick. That's a beautiful thing. So Allah wants khair for you. Now we should seek the cures. How do I purify my heart? What do I do? There's a great book translated from Arabic to English. It's called Matharatul Qulub, Purification of the Heart. Sheikh Hamza Yosef has translated this book, and this book is unbelievable, right? So, this was the book that changed my life 10 years ago when a friend gifted it to me. So my point is that, as we said from this ayah of the Quran, the hadith, right, that the most important thing is the heart. Again, I'm going to repeat this ayah, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَطَاعَ اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. On the day where your wealth, on that day means on the day of judgment, when you're standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your wealth nor your children will not benefit you besides the one that comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a sound heart. Now we're going to go into the next thing. How do we get our heart sound? And we spoke about how people invest all kind of money on their outward form, right? Especially here in Southern California, it's unbelievable how it's just so shallow, and everybody is just an image, right? That everyone wants to focus on their outward form, right? To the extent where people are even getting surgeries to change the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created them, right? Which is unbelievably ajib. So anyways, going to this, there's another hadith, and it's in Bukhari and Muslim. Inna Allah la yanziru ila ajsamakum wa la ila suwarakum wa lakin yanziru ila qulubikum. Verily, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not look at your outward forms, does not look at your body, but he looks into your hearts. He looks into your hearts, right? So now we need to understand that this dunya is faniya, and this dunya is not going to be forever. It's just a time. We're here and it's going to pass by. I'm 32 years old, and I can remember yesterday, like it was yesterday when I was 22 years old, right? 10 years, a decade has passed by, and I'm like, man, have I been sleeping? So time is catching up to us, right? And like I said, everything is going to fade. Your looks is going to fade. Your muscles are going to go. Your strength's going to go. Your intellect's going to go. Everything will go, but the only thing that will pump and last is the heart. The body right? You can be brain dead and still live. So that just lets you know that the most important thing physically in the body is the heart on a physical form, because a lot of people are brain dead, right? They're on life support, but their heart's still pumping. Well, the most dangerous thing is, like our sheikh says, it's not when the person is dead. It's when people are living and walking around on this planet, but they're dead. They're spiritually deprived. They have no basira, right? Their hearts are dead. They have no khushu. I mean, they're just sleepwalking. People are just sleepwalking around, right? They have no hudud. Like, where you at, bro? Wake up, right? It's because they're in a massive state of ghafla. And it's scary because you can talk to people and they'll just shoot right in. They won't even go in their ear to come out the other side. I mean, you're going way over their head because they have no consciousness. And how we come to consciousness, right, is through zikr, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you see, the ayah here in the Quran, right, it says, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ زَاكِيَةُ الْمَوْتِ وَإِنَّمَا تُوَفَّوْنَ أُجُورَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that every nafs, every single human will taste death, right? وَإِنَّمَا تُوَفَّوْنَ أُجُورَكُمْ. Every single person will be paid in full. So whatever you did in this life, whether it was shar or khair, whether it was good or bad, you will get paid in full. And you will see your life in front of you like a movie from the beginning to the end. HD, high definition, live and direct. You're going to be standing in front of your Lord, and every single thing that you did in this life, you will get paid back for, right? يوم القيامة فمن زحزح عن النار وأدخل الجنة فقد فاز. So whoever is far from the fire and enters Jannah, inshallah, he's successful. وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the end of the ayah says, وَمَا حَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. And what's this life besides enjoyment of delusion? That's all it is, enjoyment of delusion. And I'm not trying to unmotivate somebody. Like, when people might say, well, this guy, he has no motivation in life. No, we should succeed and we should reach high stations, economically and education-wise and everything, be successful people, but always realize and know that you are going to taste, you are going to meet your Lord. And what do we do to prepare for this? Because that's the grand day. People do everything in the world. They plan out their wedding because that's the most special day of their life. But no, man, there's a day that's even more azim and more greater and more fearing. And that's the day we meet our Lord, right? And like I said, first and foremost, this is all geared. I'm speaking to myself, right? And then inshallah, if people benefit, know that it's from the barakah of our shuyukh. If not, then it's from our dirty nafs. Anyways, going on to the next hadith al-Qudsi, right? So every single act of worship we do is supposed to have some kind of effect on the heart, right? So whether it's siyam, which is fasting, qiyam, waking up for tahajjud, praying, reading Quran, making umrah, going on hajj, all these great acts of worship are supposed to have an effect on the heart, right? Now, if these acts of worship we're doing are not having an effect on the heart, then something is wrong. Then something is seriously wrong, right? If every single day we're not drawing in proximity closer spiritually to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what's the point of that day, right? Like, people are just going through the days like they're going through motions. It's just a schedule. Not ever thinking like, yo, that might be your last day on this planet. You might get into a car accident. You might not ever see your mom again or your dad. And so many of the youth, like around me growing up, I've seen so many of my friends pass away, right? At a young age. You never know when it's your last day. So we should always be conscious and we should always be on our guard, right? Now, getting off subject, going back to what we were saying, that every single thing is supposed to affect the heart, every single act of worship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need these acts of worship from us. In reality, it's a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He's given us, right? Because a lot of people in this day and age have anxiety and depression. Well, the cure for anxiety is very, very clear. There's a hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam which says, Man asurat alayhi hajatun falyuksur bi salati alayya fa innaha takshfu al-humuma wal-ghumuma wal-kuruba wa taksiru al-arzaka wa taqti al-hawa'ij. So the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying that Man asura alayhi hajatun, whoever has a hardship, man asura alayhi hajatun falyuksur bi salat alayya fa innaha takshfu al-humuma wal-ghumuma wal-kuruba. That if you have a need, a deep need, increase salawats upon me, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will get rid of your gham. In Farsi, it's a word, gham, right? Your hum, your anxiety, your depression, and it will also increase your risk, because some people have depression and anxiety because they're in a very constricted state, and they can say they're constricted financially, so that adds on stress. So the cure is in a Sahih Hadith, right? The Rasul sallallahu gives it to us, right? That whoever sends prayers upon me, he will, inshallah, all of his worries will become less, or inshallah his difficulty will be solved, inshallah, right? Man asrat alayhi hajatan falyuksir bi salati alayya fa innaha takshfu al-ghumuma wal-kubma wa turuba wa taksiru al-arzaka, and it increases your risk wa taqti al-hawa'ij, and it will fulfill your needs also. So now, all these acts of worship, going back to the point, are supposed to have an effect on the heart, right? Now, as we were saying, these acts of worship, like if somebody, like I have friends of mine who are always in a state of anxiety, and you tell them like, do zikr, pray. And I used to be just like that. So I'll use myself as an example. I remember when I was always anxious, and it's about 10 years ago, I was always in a state of anxiety all the time. Like I never had sakina, I never had hudud, I never had peace until I started praying. Because that right there is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us, right? This religion is not supposed to be hard on us. In fact, it's very, very simple. It's very easy. It's just 5 tenets. You don't have to go out there and study overseas. You don't have to be this extreme, super Muslim doing all these acts of worship. It's very, very simple, right? As long as you protect this thing between your jawlines, the tongue, and the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam grabs it, right? And he said, this will be the thing that will lead majority of people to hell. This will be the thing, and he grabs his lisan, he grabs his tongue. Now, getting back, we were saying this hadith al-Qudsi, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Ya ibadi, law ana awwalakum wa akhirikum wa insukum wa jinnakum kana ala atqa qalbin rajulin wahidan ma zada zalika fi ilmi, ma zada zalika fi mulki shay'an. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in this hadith al-Qudsi that if the first of you, O mankind, the last of you, all of the jinn, all of the mankind possessed the heart of the most God-fearing man among you, that would not increase my kingdom in any way. So that just lets us know that this hadith right here is letting us know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need our act of worship, right? He's not in need of that. He's free of that. So going back to what we were saying, that so all these acts of worship are supposed to have an effect on the heart, right? And another hadith, an Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, akmal al-mu'minu imana ahsanuhum khuluqan wa khiyarukum li nisa'ihim, right? That the most complete believer in faith is the one with the best of character. And the best of you are the best of you to your wives, right? So these acts of worship are supposed to have this kind of effect on your akhlaq, on your character, on your heart, and it's supposed to make you merciful. Now, when you do these things, right, the signs of a sound heart, qalb al-salim, wa laysa qalb al-sakim, because qalb al-salim means a sound heart, sakim means a sick heart, is that you have rahmah in your heart. You have mercy, people that you hate, you have deep hatred, and there's a lot of people amongst our people, Afghans, unfortunately, it's very like that, like the moment, very prideful people. I mean, they were the hardest people to say that converted to Islam with the most struggle. We were the most stubborn people. I mean, obviously, the history of Afghanistan, you got a country this small that demolished the Soviet Union, right? I'm not a politician, I'm not getting into politics, but this just lets you know what kind of people we are, what kind of pride we have, right? But let's put that aside, right? Because pride is one of the gravest sins in Islam, and inshallah we're going to get into that, right? And because pride, I mean, that's a different culture of pride, but the pride I'm talking about is the pride that has this link with ego and arrogance, right? But anyways, when a heart is sound, you will have rahmah in your heart. Like the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam hadith, Bukhari and Muslim said, Man la yarham la yurham. The one who does not show mercy will not be shown mercy. The one who does not show mercy will not be shown mercy, right? So, I mean, I'm speaking first and foremost about myself. I can never look at people with an eye of how could he do that sin? How could he do that? Because I know where I was at when I didn't know. When I 10 years ago, when I was completely jahil, away from the deen, right? So we should have mercy on people, so Allah will have mercy on us. Because if you're doing acts of good and acts of worship, it's only from the mercy of Allah. It's not from you. Do not let shaitan or your nafs, your ego, play with you and think that's from you. I did this. I wake up for Qiyamul, I read Quran. I do this. I do all these acts. No. That's from a mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Another hadith, في Bukhari and Muslim, الراحمون يرحمهم الرحمن تبارك وتعالى ارحم من في الأرض يرحمكم من في السماء, right? That the merciful ones, the Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, has mercy on him. So we'll have mercy on the one on the earth, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ones in the heavens, the one in the heavens will have mercy on you. That's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who will have mercy on you, right? So that's the most important thing in this religion, is love and mercy. Unfortunately, we got people that outwardly, right, like dress like me, and mashallah, have the sunnah, and the sister wears hijab, and all these great things, but where's the akhlaq? And they're pointing fingers. We are supposed to be, walking balls of mercy for people, right? And not like ever look down on anybody, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he's put somebody in a state where he's obeying Allah and he's doing good acts, right? That's from the mercy of Allah. He can easily take you from there, and I'll give a hadith about that, right? In a story, and it's linked to a hadith. He can take you from that and put you back in jahiliyyah and you're doing sins, right? بِحَسْبِ أَمْرِئٍ مِّن شَرِّ أَنْ يَحْقِرَ أَخَاهُ الْمُسْلِمِ. That it's enough evil for a person. بِحَسْبِ أَمْرِئٍ مِّن شَرِّ أَنْ يَحْقِرَ أَخَاهُ الْمُسْلِمِ. That it's enough evil for a person to belittle his Muslim brother. I mean, that's enough evil for you. Even if you have all these other good traits and excellent character, and you're good to your wives and you're good with family and people love you, if you're well everywhere else, but for you to belittle anybody else, for any, that's a sahih hadith, man. So people need to wake up and listen to this. Because unfortunately, people, this is a subject several people are scared of because they see their own faults and they want to close that door. They don't want to see their own faults because they're not in the business of purifying the heart. And we should be in the business of trying to purify. And it's a lifetime struggle. It's not a 1-2 day thing, right? And we all have faults. We're all sinners. So saying that that the one who belittles any other Muslim, that's enough evil for him. That right there is enough evil for him, right? It's a hadith sahih from Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And another hadith from Muslim, hadith Hasan, man ayyara akhahu bi zanbin lam yamut hatta ya'malahu, that whoever criticizes his brother for a sin will not die until he falls into that same sin. And I've seen that firsthand experience, especially if the person has made tawbah, right? And you don't know who's made tawbah. Like Imam, one of the scholars, I won't quote his name, of Yemen, about 300 years ago, said something very great. He said that if you see somebody making zina in front of you, right, by the time he hits 100 yards around the block, you better think he's better than you. And I'll tell you why, right? And this is husn zan fi ghayri fi mahalihi, right? It's a good opinion and not in its place, because in that time he's walking that distance, he can make such a tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He can make such a tawbah and he can feel so low and humiliated that Allah can forgive him and give him the highest station he can be from the kibar of awliya and salihin, right? So, like the hadith right here, this is a sign of a dead heart, right? And we're going to link it back to this. Man sarratu hasanatuhu wa sa'atuhu sayyatuhu fahuwa al-mu'min. The one that's delighted by his good deed and he's grieved and he's saddened by his evil deed, he's a believer. I mean, some people can commit evil actions and they don't feel no type of remorse. They don't feel guilty at all. They can sleep perfectly fine. And one of the signs, that's a sign of a dead heart right there, right? Where you can just commit sins and not even care. Like, mashallah, and brag about it too. That's the worst. Boast about it. When Allah covered you in the middle of the night when you committed your sin, Allah has hid your sin, but you're boasting and bragging to your friends about it. And you want Allah to forgive you. How you don't forgive yourself? You're bragging about sins. I mean, that's ignorance at the highest level. People get together nowadays and brag about the type of sins they've done. A'udhu billah, right? Now, going back to the saying that man ayyara akhahu bi zanbin lam yamut hatta ya'malahu, whoever criticizes a Muslim for a sin will not die until he falls into that same sin. So we should look at people with the ayn rahmah, right? With the eye of rahmah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should look at us with the eye of rahmah, right? Because you don't know. But we don't know what act of worship we do and who we have rahmah on that could enter us to Jannah. One of the greatest scholars used to write books in the middle of the night. And he wrote thousands of books, right? And a bug came and landed on his pen, right? A fly. And instead of killing that fly, he went out to the window and he let the fly out and flew away. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of that act of kindness and rahmah, gave them, the man Jannah. Like the famous Sahih hadith about the woman that was selling her body, the prostitute, right? She was walking and she saw a dog pretty much dying of thirst. She took off her boot, went, put it down in the well, gave the dog water, and Allah gave her Jannah, right? So it's all about how you go out. We don't know anybody's ending, right? So when your eye falls on people's sins, oh my eye, you have sins too, right? Now there's a story on my link here, and it goes to having a good opinion about people. Because whoever criticizes a brother for a sin won't die until he falls into that same sin. I've repeated that 3 times because everybody likes to point fingers and criticize and tell people's faults, right? There's another hadith, man satara musliman satara Allahu fi dunya wal akhirah. Whoever hides the sins of a person or conceals them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will conceal their faults in this life and the next life. Now there's a story about a man from Bani Israel at the time of Bani Israel, right? He was an abid, a worshipper, a monk. And he worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 80 years on khalwa. And everybody knew he would go in khalwa. He was such a pious man in the eyes of people. He came to a gathering one day, right? And a man that was known as a fasik, an open sinner, a drunk, did all these type of sins, came and sat next to him. And that man came so broken and humiliated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said in his heart, Ya Allah, how merciful are you? I'm such a fasik. I'm such a bad person. I'm such a hypocrite. And here I'm sitting next to this great pious man, right? And that's the hadith of Rasul says, خِصْلَتَانِ لَيْسَ فَوْقَهُمَا شَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ حُسْنُ الظَّنِّ بِاللَّهِ وَحُسْنُ الظَّنِّ بِعِبَادِ اللَّهِ. That there's 2 characteristic traits that there's nothing better than having a good opinion of Allah and having a good opinion of the slaves of Allah. So this man was sitting next to this pious, righteous man, this fasik, had a good opinion of him. Now vice versa, this other man, who's supposed to be this monk and this abid and this great worshipper, inshallah, we'll finish off this hadith right here, that he was a great worshipper. And he said, "Ya Allah, how is it that for all these years I've worshipped for 80 years, and this man next to me here, that's known as an open sinner, is sitting next to me?" See that pride and arrogance kicked in? And the second part of the hadith is خِصْلَتَانِ لَيْسَ فَوْقَهُمَا شَيْءٌ مِنَ الشَّرِّ سُوءُ الظَّنِّ بِاللَّهِ and سُوءُ الظَّنِّ بِعِبَادِ اللَّهِ. That there's two characteristic traits there's nothing worse than, is having a bad opinion of Allah and a bad opinion of the slaves of Allah. So you see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent an angel down to this worshipper and said, all that worship you've been doing for 80 years, all of that has now gone to this man. Now you're starting from zero, right? Zero. Now you got to start from the beginning. And see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can change hearts within an instant, right? So we should not let even our good deeds and our acts of worship that we're doing have that hidden riyah, that secret ostentation, and let the nafs and the ego play with us and make us fond of ourselves, right? Inshallah, anyhow, we're going to take a little break, inshallah, and then we'll get back on the next topic. Oh, sorry.
علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري فلهذا السر أدعو في يساري وعساري أنا عبد صار فخري ضمن فقري واضطراري قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري يا إلهي ومليكي أنت تعلم كيف حالي وبما قد حل قلبي من هموم واشتغال فتداركني بلطف منك يا مولى الموالي يا كريم الوجه غثني قبل أن يفنى اصطباري قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري يا سريع الغوث غوثا منك يدركني سريعا يهزم العسر ويأتي بالذي أرجو جميعا يا قريبا يا مجيبا يا سميعا يا عليما قد تحققت بعجزي وخضوعي وانكساري قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري لم أزل بالباب واقف فارحمن ربي وقوفي وبوادي الفضل عاكف فأدم ربي عكوفي ولحسن الظن لازم وهو خلي وحليفي وأنيسي وجليسي طول ليلي ونهاري قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لافتقاري حاجة في النفس يا رب فاقضها يا خير قاضي وأرح سري وقلبي من لظاها والشواظي في سرور وحبور وإذا ما كنت راضي فالهنا والبسط حالي وشعاري ودثاري كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لافتقاري قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي
بسم الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. محمد طيب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبناء وشفائها ونور الأبصار وديائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا. So now we're coming back from the break, and the next topic we want to talk about is companionship, sahba, being with the right company, right? Having the right set of friends. And being Afghan and being born and raised here, we know how much our parents would always punch that in our head. You know, they always want you around good friends. Sometimes they would want to avoid you to being around other friends because, I mean, they have hikmah. Whether they're on deen, or we might think our parents are backward because we were born and raised here, or they're from a different era. But no, because now we're going to link this to the kalam of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, right? And Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu qala Nabiyyu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ar-rajulu ala dini khalilihi falyanzur ahadukum man yukhalil. Rawahu Abu Dawud wa Tirmidhi, right? That a person is on the deen of his companion, of his friend. So he should see and check who his companion is, right? So you are the company you keep. There's no doubt about it. There's no way you can be with people and not be subconsciously, you won't even know it, and you'll start having their traits. Like, for instance, somebody that curses a lot, and that's a real big problem, right? A lot of people nowadays practicing just love cursing. You know, and there's a hadith too. It's a sahih hadith. The most hateful people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the ones that curse a lot, even if you're joking or not. It's a sahih hadith, and I'll mention it too. You know, that way people will really believe me, that the people that just use profanity all the time, potty mouth, they just can't shut up, right? Now, if you hang around with a person like that, eventually that will rub off on you. You won't even know it. If it won't rub off on you, then you will have no haya for somebody else. Like somebody, you'll belittle it. So if somebody else is cursing, then, you know, it doesn't matter. I'm used to hearing cursing all the time, right? So we should always be careful of and be, you know, conscious and know who our friends are. Because even if you don't do a bad, you know, action that your friends commit, sooner or later it's going to rub off and you will fall in that same category with them. And there's an ayah in the Quran, right? In Surah Zukhruf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-khillau yawma izin ba'dahum li ba'din aduwan illa muttaqin. That best friends in this dunya. So imagine your best friend in this life, in this world, on that day will become your enemy. And it's like, wait, how was that? And it doesn't make sense, right? Your best friend, and you didn't do any bad things with him. Let's just say you guys went and played basketball, you played video games, you went out, you had dinner, you had a good time. You didn't really get in the haram area, right? There's that, you know, you guys didn't commit any haram. But even on that day, they will be enemies to each other because they didn't call each other to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna al-insana wal asr inna al-insana lafi khusr illa allazina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi. That calls into, you know, you call people to the path of Allah, right? So the tafsir of this, the ulama, the commentary, right, that I got from Dalal al-Falihin, which is an Arabic book, right? The commentary that the scholars give, that the person will be in the hellfire and he will call on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and says, oh, aina fulan, where's that person? Bring him in and put him under me in the fire, because he never called to your way. He never encouraged me to go to the mosque or pray or do any acts of khayr or fast or anyhow, you guys get my point, right? So our company is very, very, very important, who you're with, because that right there will make you or break you. And this is from an Islamic perspective. Obviously, psychology says the exact same thing, because the majority of people are weak. They're followers, right? They're followers. And at this day and age, if a person is leading, from a herd, a good group of friends, there's very rarely that they lead you to good. And if you do have a friend like that, mashallah, then you are truly, truly, truly blessed. A friend that you get along with that calls you to the path of Allah. Now, another topic we're gonna touch, and this is very, very big amongst the Afghans, and unfortunately, this has been like inherited from the elders to the youth, and that's pride and arrogance, right? Pride of where you come from, pride of your forefathers, pride of your last name. In Afghanistan, which kaum you're from, right? I'm from the north, I'm Pashtun, I'm Panjshiri, I'm this, I'm that. But we're going to kill all that right now, okay? Because there's a Sahih Hadith, Rawahul Hakim, where the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Fatima biddatun minni, yakbiduni ma yakbiduha wa yusituni ma yusituha, wa inna al-ansaba tanqati yawm al-qiyamah ghayra nasabi wa sababi wa sihri, that Fatima is a piece of me. So look, so if you're boasting about your religious, if you're boasting about your kaum or your family name, or wherever area you're from, or whoever your ties are, right? Whatever different parts of it. And I don't want to get into it. I don't want to, say these, are you from the royal family or this and that? Now listen what the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. He goes, Fatima bidatun minni, right? Fatima is a piece of me. Whoever hurts her, hurts me. And whoever pleases her or delights her has pleased me, right? وَإِنَّ الْأَنْسَابَ تَنْقَطِعُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ غَيْرَ النَّسَبِ, that all lineages will be cut off on the day of judgment. Every single lineage will be cut off besides my lineage. وَنَسَبِي وَسَبَبِي وَسِحْرِي, my lineage, my relations, and whoever marries into my family, right? So, and who are those people? That's the Ahl al-Bayt. In Afghanistan, this last name would be known as Sayyid or Sadat or Bani Hashim, right? These are the only people, and I'm sorry, it might break a lot of people's egos and nuts, well, they're not better than us, this and that. I'm not Sayyid or Sadat or from the family of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I'm just letting you know what Quran and Hadith says, right? You can take it or you can leave it, right? And this should humble people. And you know what? If you really meet somebody truly Sayyid, truly from Hashimi, or truly from the family Sadat, they're the most broken, humble people. My best friend of over 17, 18 years, he didn't know he was Sadat until I brought up to him, hey, do you know what that means? After I studied the deen, it means you have the blood of the Rasul going in you, right? Now, obviously, they can commit sins, they do bad things. It's not like not to get into different sects or Shias or whatnot, but we also love Ahl al-Bayt. Ahl Sunnah Jama'ah, people that follow Madahib, Ahl Sunnah Jama'ah, we love Ahl al-Bayt, right? Another hadith of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, is it Ahibullah lima yaghzukum min ni'amihi, love Allah from what He's bestowed upon you from His blessings, wa ahibuni wa ahibuli li hubbillahi, and love me for the sake of Allah, wa ahibbu Ahl al-Bayti li hubbi, and love my Ahl al-Bayt because of me, right? So yes, we do esteem them. We do love Ahl al-Bayt, right? Because all of the greatest scholars, majority throughout history, come through the Ahl al-Bayt, right? So that's not, like I said, that's not a Shia ideology. That's Ahl al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, right? And in Morocco and in Yemen and in Egypt, they respect that. In the Arab world, they respect Ahl al-Bayts. They respect Sadat. It's only here in Afghanistan that unfortunately, and only in our country where the love and respect is not esteemed like other places, right? Anyways, so nobody should have any pride and arrogance, because all your lineages, every lineage is going to be out the water, besides what the hadith of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ayah of the Quran says, وَلَا تَمْشِي فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا, and don't walk on this planet arrogantly, right? Do not walk arrogantly. وَلَا تُصَعِّرْ خَدَّكَ لِلنَّاسِ وَلَا تَمْشِي فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ كُلُّ مُخْتَالٍ مَفَخُورٍ, right? So don't turn your face away with pride from people. When you see people, you turn your face and act like you don't see them. Well, I'm not going to say salam to him first, right? Well, he has to come up to me first. This is just arrogance and pride, right? And also, this is Quran. Don't turn your face. And so many elders do this, and it's just passed on to the youth. And unfortunately, we live in a time, right, where arrogance and narcissism and pride is at its peak, because social media has also helped the youth with that too, by pumping them. And everybody has a self-image, or this, that, or this and that, right? Well, did you forget what you were created from, right? Like, and I don't want to say it on international TV, but it's, ayah in the Quran too. Insan was created from najasa. I won't even use the word, but you can, put your senses together. It was created by najasa in 3 of the 4 madahibs, in the Hanafi madhab, the Hanbali madhab, and the Maliki madhab. What insan was created from najasa, that's impurity, that's filth. When that comes out of your body, you got to make ghusl, right? So that's what you were created from, and now you want to boast and be arrogant. وَلَا تَمْشِي فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا, and don't walk on the earth prideful, arrogantly. Inna Allah la yuhib, verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love kulla mukhtalin, every deceitful, vain, boastful person, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love him. You're boasting about what, right? And like I said, and I've seen this growing up in an Abian community, the people that usually boast or are arrogant are usually people that lie a lot too, and they have nothing to boast or be arrogant about, right? And those people are the furthest away to feel any kind of rahmah or spiritual ecstasy or anything, right? Because kullana fuqara, the word faqir is the singular, fuqara is the plural in the Arabic language. وَنَحْنُ كُلَّنَا فُقَرَاء مَعَ اللَّهِ, we're all faqirs, we're all fuqara. وَالصَّدَقَ لِفُقَرَاء نَحْنُ كُلَّنَا مُحْتَاج لِصَدَقَ, and we're all in need of sadaqah. Sadaqah means rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this other hadith that links to this, the hadith is in Muslim. عن عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر, that no one that has Adam's weight of pride and arrogance will enter Jannah. And another hadith is the Shaykh says, and the commentary says, not even though you won't even smell the fragrance of Jannah if you have an Adam's weight of pride and arrogance. And that's when we talked about earlier, Jihad al-Akbar, the struggle against your ego and your nafs. You know, it's hard to go and it's so hard. We know it's hard. It's the hardest thing to make yourself low and apologize to somebody, especially when you know you're right and you know they're wrong, right? But that's the bigger person. Like the hadith of Rasul, لَيْسَ الشَّدِيدُ بِسُرَاءَ إِنَّمَا الشَّدِيدُ الَّذِي يَمْلِكُ نَفْسُهُ عِنْدَ الْغَضَبِ, that the strong one is not who can overpower somebody and wrestle them and punch them and beat them up, but the strong one who could hold his anger and the time, hold back his anger when he's angry, right? Not unleash and not curse and not physically hurt somebody, right? And the second part of the hadith is inna, and the Sahaba says, Qala rajulun, one of the Sahaba to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inna rajulu yuhibbu an yakuna thawbuhu hasana wa na'luhu hasana, that verily a man loves to look beautiful and do his hair and dress good, right? And Rasul says, inna Allah jamilun wa yuhibbul jamal, and Rasul says, Allah is beautiful and loves beauty, meaning that if you dress nice and you take care of yourself and you adorn yourself, that has nothing to do with pride and arrogance. Pride and arrogance is something in the heart, right? That has nothing to do with it. So you can do all that because Allah loves to see His blessings that He's bestowed upon His slave, right? So Allah is beautiful, you know, beautify yourself for the sake of Allah, right? And we should do that as Muslims, right? Is beautify ourselves for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another story that we're going to link back, it's another hadith, it's a little long. I'll read parts of it and I'll give you guys a meaning in English, right? That there's people that will come. An Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu, there'll be people that come on the day of judgment, right? An Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu, anna Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam qala, atadruna mal muflis. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says to the Sahabas, do you know who's the bankrupt person, right? Who's muflis? And the Sahaba says, قالوا المفلس فينا من لا درهم ولا له ولا متاع. So the muflis, the bankrupt, so the Sahaba, the answer to the Rasul, he says, yeah, well, the bankrupt one is the one that doesn't have any money, doesn't have a dirham, which back then was a form of money, or he doesn't have any goods, he doesn't have any wealth. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, إن المفلس من أمتي من يأتي يوم القيامة بصلاتي وصيامي وزكاتي, right? That the muflis one, the bankrupt one, is the one that will come on the day of judgment and will have lots of fasting and lots of praying and giving zakat, right? وَيَأْتِي قَدْ شَتَمَ هَذَا وَكَذَفَ هَذَا. But verily, he'll come and he's the muflis one. So he's had all these good acts of worship, but he's insulted this person, right? He's backbited, made say slandered this person, right? وَأَكَّلَ مَالَ هَذَا, right? And he stole the money of this person, right? وَسَفَكَ دَمَّ هَذَا, and he shed the blood of another person. وَضَرَبَ هَذَا, and he beat another person. فَيُؤْتَى هَذَا مِنْ حَسَنَاتِهِ, and all of this will be taken from his good deeds. People will get, you know, the people that were Muslim, that were oppressed by this man, they will start taking from his good deeds until فَإِنْ فَنِيَتْ, and then when it vanishes, he has no more good deeds. حَسَنَاتُهُ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَقْضِيَ مَا عَلَيْهِ أُخِذَ مِنْ خَطَايَاهُمْ فَطُرُحَتْ عَلَيْهِ ثُمَّ طُرِحَ فِي النَّارِ. And then after he has no more good deeds, he will start taking the bad deeds of people, and then khalas, he'll be thrown in the fire face first, right? So now we can link this last hadith back to everything we said. You can have all these acts of worship and praying and zikr and this and that, and outwardly, mashallah, you're so pious in front of people and you get your hijab, this and that. But you're making ghiba, right? Like the Rasul grabs his tongue, says this is the people that draw people into the fire, worse than fornication, right? Like I told you, man satara, right? And the thing is, there's another ayah in the Quran, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُحِبُّونَ أَن تَشِيَ الْفَاحِشَةَ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُحِبُّونَ أَن تَشِيعَ الْفَاحِشَةُ فِي الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. And the ones that love to spread rumors about people, to have a painful torment in this life and the next life, right? Now, rumor here doesn't mean by something that's not true. If even that thing you're spreading about the person is true, you will still have a deep punishment in this life and in the next, right? Like I said, it all goes back, this whole religion is based on love and mercy. Love and mercy. And since we're talking about the heart and the diseases of the heart, so people obviously want to know, how can somebody purify the heart if they don't have a shaykh, right? The zikr that we've been given and all in the books of tasawwuf and all the sheikhs say is salat al-nabi. Send many salawat on the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and you will see it, you will be in sa'ada, you will be in felicity, you will be like literally in ecstasy. Your gham and your hum, like the hadith says, man asrat alayhi hajatan falyukthir bi salati alayna fa innaha takshifu al-humuma wal-ghumuma wal-kuruba. That send prayers upon me and it will diminish, it will get rid of all your gham, your hum and your kurb, all your hardships, your anxiety and your depression. You can be in a jail cell, right? Like Ibn Attal Iskandariya says, right? Ma wajada iza faqada Allah. What have you found if you lost Allah? Wa ma faqada iza wajada Allah. Right? And what have you lost if you found Allah? You can be in a jail cell and you can be in sa'ada if your heart is connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And for those that are lost, that don't pray and you're committing all kinds of sins, don't put that aside, right? Yeah, inshallah, you will leave that. Don't let shaitan despair you from Allah's mercy, right? Oh, I'm doing this, and this. I can't pray, man, because I go out there, I party, I do this, I drink. No, man. Still do your prayer. And inshallah, with time, all that stuff will fall off. That's not important, right? As long as you're trying, take one step forward to Allah, Allah will come running to you, right? Never despair from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rahmah. We're all sinners, right? We don't know, right? Who's going to enter. Like, maybe I don't sin outwardly, but you don't know what's in my heart, right? Or maybe the other person that you see wearing the hijab doesn't sin outwardly. You don't know what's in their heart, right? Because the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Sahih Hadith in Arba'in Nawawi says that al-birru husnul khuluq, right? Piety and righteousness is good character. Wal ithmu, and a sin. Wal ithmu ma haka fi nafsika wa karihta an yatali alayhi nas. And the sin is what wavers in your heart, and you would hate for people to know about it, because the sins of the heart are worse than the sins of the limbs. Because Allah can forgive the sins of the limbs, right? I mean, the sins of the heart are worse than the sins of the limb. So people that have envy and jealousy and hatred, these are sins that you're taking to the grave with you. Because we said earlier, right, that the heart lives forever. So all the sins of the heart are going to the grave with you. But the sins on the limbs, Allah can forgive that. Well, actually, another thing is, if you hurt people, you better ask for their forgiveness. Even if you have to beg them, keep going back and asking for their forgiveness, because you don't want to take that weight with you Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? So we're saying the sins of the heart are worse than the sins of the limbs. Okay? So know that there's also good deeds of the heart, right? Like the Rasul said, tafakkar sa'atin khayru min ibadati 70 sana. The tafakkar, right? The contemplation for an hour is better than 70 years of worship. And that is a good action of the heart. So inshallah, if people want to know what's the best way, obviously there's a book that called Matharatul Qulub. Sheikh Hamza Yusuf translated that book into Purification of the Heart. And inshallah, you could all get that, but the zikr that you don't need a sheikh, you don't need a prescription, that anybody can read is Salat al-Nabi. And there's different sighas, there's different ways. First one is very simple. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, right? And there's different ones. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin tibul qulubi wa dawaiha wa akhiyar abnai wa shifaiha wa nur absari wa diyaiha wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. So there's many different ones, but the shortest one that's very easy, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Is driving in your car, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Try it out. You're not going to lose nothing. Turn off the radio, try it out for an hour and just see how you feel. Literally, see what it does for you. If you got anxiety, you don't need to go get all these kind of anxiety medication, or, just Salat al-Nabi. Send prayers upon the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and it's the only thing that's guaranteed, right? Your Hajj is not guaranteed, your Umrah is not guaranteed, your fasting, none of our acts of worship, because Allah, it's ikhlas. We don't know what's guaranteed. We don't know what's Allah going to accept, but Salat al-Nabi is accepted 110%. Man Salat al-Nabi, inna Allah wa malaikatu salli alayhi, right? That Allah and the messengers will send blessings upon you. Even if you're a fasik, even if you're committing sins, even if your tongues are doing it and you have no hudud, you have no presence in your heart, still send salawat on the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and a lot of good things can happen from that. Believe it or not, I know people that were, I can't even say, probably the biggest criminals. And by doing, and all he did was salawats. He wouldn't, I don't know if the person was even praying, but he had a beautiful dream of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he woke up one morning and left everything and changed his whole life. And there's a hadith fi Bukhari and Muslim on that. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من رآني في المنام فسيراني في اليقظة. Whoever sees me in a dream will see me in real life. أو no, it can be أو كأنما رآني في اليقظة لا أو كأنما رآني في اليقظة لا يتمثل شيطان B. So as if the one is seeing me in a dream, as if he's seen me in real life, because Satan cannot take my form, right? So I think, we should all want to be like the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. People have mentors that they look up to, whether it's basketball players, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, or you got a boxer or MMA fighter, or whatever you got, you want to be like them. Why not try to be like the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Khayra khalqillah, the best of Allah's creation, right? We should all try to embody his character and be like him. And how do you connect yourself with Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? How you increase love is read the Seerah. There's a book translated in English called Muhammad. It's by Critical Lies by Yahya Emmerich is the author. Yahya Emmerich is called Muhammad. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. And I've given this book to people that do not practice at all, and they're living a whole different lifestyle, and they literally sat down and read it in one day. Right? It's a beautiful book, and I think people should read that and get a connection with Rasulullah, because to know him is to love him, and to love him is to know him. And once you fall in love with Rasulullah, and inshallah, if we're blessed to see the Rasulullah in a dream, then inshallah, you'll be in felicity and you'll be taken care of. And it is very scary if somebody's reached 40, 50 years old and they still don't have a connection with Rasulullah, because every good and every khair comes from the door of Rasulullah. He's on the day, the famous hadith where we're all on Yom Al-Qiyamah, everybody, we're running to Adam alayhi salam, all confused. And Adam alayhi salam says, I ate from the forbidden tree. Then he says, go to Musa alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam will say that accidentally he hit somebody and he killed somebody. And Musa alayhi salam will say, go to Isa alayhi salam. Isa alayhi salam will say, how can you come to me? People thought I was, God's son. A'udhu billah. They say, go to Maryam alayhi salam. And she says, go to Ahmad, go to Muhammad, go to Muhammad. Because everybody will be behind the banner of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam on that day. And you will not enter Jannah without his intercession. He is the door to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every khair comes from Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So why not build our connection with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam by sending abundance of salawats upon him? Send as much as yomi and thousands on a daily basis, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and see how you feel. Your whole life will change. I promise you. I've seen these miracles in my eye, right? And obviously I can't talk about it. Majority of people won't even believe me. It's one of those things you have to experience for yourself. I've seen people's lives change from this, right? So inshallah, from today's thing, we obviously make some lessons from it. The first one is rahmah, have mercy on people, and pride and arrogance, let's get rid of that. And inshallah, first and foremost, myself, and then everybody else. And obviously pride and arrogance. We talked about rahmah. And inshallah, for every other session, today we just did an overview, and it was unorganized. I was just dropping on different topics and matters. But inshallah, from next week, every session will be focused on one thing, right? Whether it's on Allah's rahmah, on tawbah, on birr walidain, being pious and righteous to your parents. That's something very great. On salat rahim, right? People that cut family relations. Lanatullah alayhim, right? That the lanat of Allah is on those people that cut family relations. That's a grave sin that we see amongst our people a lot, right? So we'll be doing that. And then my favorite subject is the rank of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, right? That who is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and what's his rank with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, huwa Habibullah wa Nabiyullah wa Khalilullah wa everything in existence was created because of the light of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You and I, the heavens and the earth and all the Anbiya were sent because of the light of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Everything goes back to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, right? So we should know who he is, right? And we should know his rank and how great, because every good stems and comes from him. And inshallah, we're going to wrap it up. We'll make a dua and forgive us for any shortcomings. اللهم يا رب بجاه سيدنا محمد ابن عبد الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اجمع بيننا وبين سيدنا محمد ابن عبد الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم اني اسالك من كل خير سالك منه سيدنا محمد نبيك، واعوذ بك من كل شر استعاذك منك سيدنا محمد نبيك. اللهم اغفر لنا ما قدمنا وما اخرنا وما اسررنا وما اعلنا وما انت عالم به منا. ربنا اتينا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا عذاب النار. واعوذ بك من فتنه المحيا والممات وفتنه كبير مسيء الدجال وعذاب النار وسوء المصير. اللهم يا رب بجاه سيدنا محمد ابن عبد الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اجمع بيننا وبين سيدنا محمد في الدنيا قبل الآخرة في الدنيا قبل الآخرة في الدنيا قبل الآخرة. And inshallah, next week we'll take questions, and the email address is up there. If you have any questions regarding a fiqh issue or any Islamic issue, whether what we spoke about or prayer or inheritance, any issues, just email to that email, and we can answer you an answer in the Hanafi madhab or the Maliki madhab. And inshallah, that'll be it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and inshallah we'll see you guys next week.
كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري فلهذا السر أدعو في يساري وعساري أنا عبد صار فخري ضمن فقري واضطراري قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري.
آریانا افغانستان، یگانه شبکه تلویزیونی ملی افغانها در خارج از کشور.